Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For cables, connectors, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by the Ham Station. Get your new radio or antenna by calling 800-729-4373 or go to hamstation.com.
It's Ham Radio.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for Ham Talk Live, episode number 82, Public Relations Tips, and the Great Lakes HamCon, recorded live on Thursday, September 21st, 2017. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight, we're joined by Scott Westerman, W9WSW, and he will take your calls live in just a few minutes. Last week on the show, Gary West, K8DEV, was here, and Jay Adrick, K8CJY, and they were talking about the 75th anniversary celebration and the new Crosley exhibit at the National Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting, and that's coming up on Saturday, so don't forget, they will be on the air. They don't have any frequencies planned out just yet, but they will be on the air around 9 or 10 Eastern and go until the big celebration over there in Westchester, Ohio at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to listen for WC8VOA on Saturday, and you can work the 75th anniversary celebration station over at the Voice of America Museum. If you missed that show, you can listen to us at hamtalklive.com anytime, or you can catch us on one of those podcast apps like Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, SoundCloud. We're also over on YouTube, and we're on Overcast and some others as well. So pick out your favorite app, and chances are we are there. And we're on iHeartMedia as well, on iHeart Podcasts. So just a quick update on a couple of things. First of all, the hurricane nets, they're stood down. There's still a lot of health and welfare stuff going on, so keep an eye on that, and you can find those resources out there on the internet pretty easily for some of the health and welfare stuff coming out of the Caribbean especially. And special event station W7NTV is the National Tribal Emergency Management Association. They're Amateur Radio Association, and they're at an emergency management conference at the Tai Chi Palace Casino and Resort in Lemoore, California, and they've been on since the 18th, and they will finish things up tomorrow. So make sure you look for them on 20 meters and on 40 meters. They are posting frequencies and times on their Facebook page. That's the NTARA, National Tribal Amateur Radio Association. Right now, they're on 14.245. So after the show, you can look over there and see if they're still there. They've been hanging around 14.235, but right now they're on 245, so give them a listen. And I think that's all the updates we have for you. So I'll come back. We'll talk to Scott about some things. And then we will take your calls after the interview. You can give us a call. And I'll go ahead and give you the phone number to call. It's 812-NET-HAM-1. That's 812-638-4261. Or you can Skype us at Ham Talk Live. You can also tweet us anytime. Our Twitter handle is at hamtalklive, but I'll let you know when it's time to call. We're going to talk to Scott first, and then we'll take your calls live. So I'll be back right after this from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you in part by Tower Electronics. Tower Electronics has been the Ham's Dime store since 1978. When you need connectors, mobile and handheld antennas, cables, or adapters, visit Scott or Jill at a Hamfest near you. Or you can order online at pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973. Stock up on those supplies like PL259 and N connectors, SMA adapters, audio cables, soldering supplies, mobile antennas, and ham sticks. Their silver-plated N connectors are even used on the International Space Station. Tower Electronics carries MFJ, Comet, Daiwa, OPEC, Workman, and Ham Pro products. And don't miss their 0% off sale going on now. Tower Electronics, online at pl-259.com, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
All ham, all the time. Ham Talk Live.
We are back. We'd like to thank Scott and Jill at Tower Electronics for helping to bring Ham Talk Live your way this evening. They're going to be in Cedarburg, Wisconsin this weekend. And then Saturday, October 7th, they'll be in Belton, Texas. And October 13th and 14th, they'll be down in Melbourne, Florida. Or you could give them a phone call, 920-435-2973, or catch them at their website, pl-259.com. Tell them you heard it on Ham Talk Live. We're here every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time at hamtalklive.com. Scott Westerman, W9WSW, resides in East Lansing, Michigan, where he is an Associate Vice President of Alumni Relations and Executive Director of the Michigan State University Alumni Association. Scott spent 32 years as a broadcaster, corporate executive, and entrepreneur after graduating from Michigan State. Scott is actively engaged with the Michigan State University Amateur Radio Club, W8SH, and is the chair of the ARRL Public Relations Committee. He's also been a technical coordinator for the New Mexico section of the ARRL. Scott was licensed in 1982, and he is the social media director for the upcoming Great Lakes HamCon that we'll be talking about. So, Scott, welcome to Ham Talk Live.
Neil, it's great to be with you. You read that just exactly the way I wrote it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on, and I feel like after reading that I should play the Michigan State fight song here, but I figured that would be a copyright violation, so I didn't pull out my copy of the fight song.
It's no copyright violation, but I hear that often, so it's okay to go an evening without it.
Okay.
Radio with you.
Every time there's a touchdown, here comes another Michigan State fight song play. So, yeah, I do some sports announcing, and with doing high schools, they always steal all the college fight songs. So, I have a collection of all of the major college fight songs. So I do actually have a copy of it. But well, anyway, tonight we're here to talk about ham radio. So let's do that. And since you work every day promoting Michigan State and the alumni and working with people every day, you spend a lot of time promoting things and relating with the public. And you also spend a lot of time promoting ham radio. So let's talk a little bit about public relations and how you can get the word out on ham radio and maybe your local club and kind of spread the word about ham radio.
Well, I mean, it really, public relations is simply the narrative, right? So the first thing you need to think about is what is your narrative? And for every club, it's a little bit different because every club has its own personality and its own membership and its own culture. And one of the things that translated very well for me from my day job to ham radio is the whole notion of the club structure, because we at Michigan State, the Alumni Association, have over 140 clubs worldwide, and no two are the same. But the narrative we try and work with is very similar. So when we're thinking about what the value of ham radio is, the old saw that we've always used is when all else fails, we're there. And we have a lot of really neat examples of that, especially now when the infrastructure fails. For example, today, Carl Berry, Kilo Charlie 5 Charlie Mike X-Ray, set up a website, which is Kilo 4 Golf Sierra Oscar US/radiogram. And what that does is that takes the current technologies of a website and allows you to put a message if you're looking for somebody or want to get a message to somebody in Puerto Rico or any of the other disaster areas where the infrastructure is currently down. He will make sure that gets into the national traffic system. So that's an interesting piece of the emergency communications narrative. But there are several others that I think work equally well, and it depends, again, on the second piece of this public relations puzzle, which is what is your audience, right? So, Neil, for guys like you and me that have been around a while, there are certain things that we're interested in, right? And that's absolutely the typical club stuff. But the next generation that we're trying to attract may not be interested in that. And so that's where the opportunity to think about what it is that your audience is interested in and how do they like to consume information. So, for example, at our club, we do an awful lot with the maker movement. We hold our meetings in the maker space. We align with the various maker organizations around town because that's where we find the new hams. That's in essence what we were when you got. I think you're licensed around. Let's see, if you were 5, so that'd be 1975, right? So you were
76.
Yep. 76, around the same time I was. And back then we were still building things, and it was still cool to use a phone patch and all that kind of stuff. And that's in essence what the maker guys are doing now. So when you think about that demographic, the millennials and some of the younger folks, that's what they're interested in. So part of the secret of public relations is number one, figuring out what your narrative it is, and then figuring out the network that you want to use to get it to them. For example, we think that websites, guys our age still think websites are pretty cool, but there are a lot of clubs out there in my world that don't have a website, that exist primarily on Facebook and Twitter because that's where their members are. So part of what you need to do in the club world is figure out how your folks like to be communicated with. Our students, for example, Neil, don't open email anymore. If you want to talk to a student, you got to text them, right? So that's in a nutshell. All about.
Mine are even getting away from texting, and I went to Twitter because they were on Twitter. Now they've left that. Now it's Snapchat. Everybody's on Snapchat.
Because they think it disappears. They don't realize that you can screenshot all that and keep it forever, just like anything else. But that's what we got to do. We have to be out on the cutting edge. And one of the most interesting things for me about the most recent hurricane adventures is the emergence of Zello as a communications app. And some of my more seasoned amateur radio buddies say, well, that's not ham radio. But it is what we do, because after all, what my narrative is for amateur radio, and I think it's a very powerful narrative, is that we're the communication and technology specialists. It doesn't matter what the platform is. We know how to utilize it to make sure that the message gets through. And I've actually had a couple of conversations with the folks that were running the Hurricane Irma Zello net, because they wanted to talk about, okay, so how do you guys really handle a net control situation, right? And there may or may not be a call sign involved, but there are amateur radio guys involved. And at the end of the day, that's what we really need to, that's where our value add is. We're the experts in technology and communication.
Absolutely. And there's all kinds of things. In fact, I got an email or tweet this week from somebody saying that they were doing some GMRS cross-platform things with hams and trying to get something out there with GMRS that's a little more steered, toward the public. And although a lot of people don't realize you're supposed to have a license for that, but there's some interoperability that's going on over on GMRS, and I'd never heard of it before. So we're going to look into it a little bit. But there's all kinds of app opportunities, and the app, the Zello app, I think it even got overloaded with a lot of things going on here in the last couple of weeks with all the hurricanes.
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. And if you look up radiorelay.org, that's a group founded by fans of the National Traffic System, and they actually created a guide for people who own GMRS or FRS rigs on how to use them to summon help. And they set out a system, where you make your call for the first 5 to 8 minutes at the top of the hour, and then you listen to tell you how to conserve your power and how to basically setting up a protocol very much like we do so naturally in amateur radio. So I think that's part of the value we add, right, is we can train these folks in how to use their technology. And then what naturally kind of happens, I'm sure this happened for you, right? I mean, there's somewhere out there was an Elmer that kept you interested from the time you got your license till the time you decided this was going to be not just a hobby, but an essential avocation for you. And
Sure.
that's kind of what we do best is like that. So I was really glad to see radiorelay.org put out a manual for GMRS folks on how they can use their stuff to summon help.
Yeah, and I just found out on Facebook here, actually, that one of my former ham radio students was lost in a cave for 3 days. And
Really?
what? Wait a minute here. How did that happen? Of course, he didn't have a radio with him, but they finally organized a search, and they found him. But these kinds of things happen, and there's all kinds of possibilities there, and ham radio is definitely one of those avenues, but there's several out there, and like you said, you get the message across of how to handle the traffic and how to handle the flow, and of course we want to use ham radio stuff to do that with, but in an emergency situation, we may need to use more than that.
Yeah, the platform doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's the people behind the platform. And the great thing about our essential avocation is that we spend a lot of time encouraging people to get trained, right? So one of the first things I did when I was licensed was I went to Skywarn training, and I was assigned my bridge down near Roseville in Metro Detroit. And every time there would be a watch that looked like it was going to go to warning, I went to my bridge and I looked for, circulation in that a cumulonimbus cloud that was supposedly coming over, and that's the value that we can add. If you look at a lot of organizations at Michigan State University, we have a CERT team, and there are some ham radio guys on there, but the ham radio knowledge and technology and the ability to train is, I think, one of our strongest suits, and it is interesting because what tends to happen, I think, to a lot of us after time goes by is that we kind of latch on to a certain dimension of the hobby. One of the things that's so great about this hobby, Neil, is there's something for everyone. There's such a wide array of things you can do with ham radio that it's very easy to find something you're interested in. But as you grow older, you get hooked on CW like some guys do, or some guys are DMR or D-Star guys, or some guys are satellite guys like my good friend KX9X, Sean Kutzko, and you end up wanting to do specifically that. And then that's where I think you get into some trouble, because then you begin to think, well, this is what ham radio is. So, for example, when somebody gets a license, the first thing I tell them to do before they even go out and buy a radio is I tell them to go get the EchoLink app for their phone and start talking to people there. The key is to find ways to keep them engaged and excited about it. And from a public relations perspective, that's the challenge that we have, is how do we tell those stories, right? Because it's the stories that really excite people about the hobby.
Absolutely, and even as a teacher, that's chemistry. Even it's storytelling,
right? Yeah.
and you have to get those stories in there to get the attention of them and get in there and get them excited about something and get them interested. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is listening to drive-up headsets. They have no idea that you could actually listen to, the
Yeah.
drive-up headset at McDonald's, and it's like, oh, you can do that. It's like, yeah, and Thursdays after school we have Ham Radio Club. Come join us, and it works.
See, that's fascinating. That's the stuff I love, because there's always somebody out there figuring something out. I have sitting next to me a Kenwood TK820, formerly a business band repeater that I've repurposed for a 77 centimeter repeater, and it is controlled by a Raspberry Pi, which is using the Asterisk All-Star image. And of course, I had some Elmers that helped me figure out how to do that. But that thing, it has, you can connect to any All-Star Echolink node with that thing using DTMF. You can do it from an IXRPT phone on your computer. It has the weather at the bottom of the hour. I connect to net. I connect to the Insomniacs net every morning at 2 a.m. and to the Good Morning net every day at 10. It does everything that controller we used to pay $2,500 or $3,000 for does. And it was some guy that figured out how to put it on a $25 item. So that's what I really love about this hobby. There's just so many dimensions. And for a guy like me that has a very short attention span, there's always something new and shiny I could play with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about what the league is doing. You're the chair of the Public Relations Committee. And so tell us some of the things that the league is doing to help promote ham radio.
Well, I mean, the most exciting thing that's going on right now at the league, now that NPOTA is over, I think the National Parks on the Air thing that Sean and Norm Fusaro came up with at HQ was probably the most exciting thing that's happened since there were sunspots. The last the last decent sunspot cycle we had. There were so many people that were involved in that last year, and there was just so much fun. So many new friendships were made, new stars emerged in the hobby. That was really an out-of-the-park home run for the league. And one of the things that Tom Gallagher, our CEO, started to think about is how can we engage the collegiate audience? So he came up with the Collegiate Amateur Radio Initiative. And there is a Facebook page for that. And there's a dedicated group of a growing number of groups that represent ham radio clubs at the college level across the country. Some that have been dormant for many years that are coming back, some that are legendary like W9WSW, the Yale University group that's got a net every Tuesday night. And they're all coming together and talking about how to excite the next generation about amateur radio. And that's been great fun for me, because what it's helped me do is to research what the things are that are out there that really make for revitalizing a college ham club. And if you go to my website, W9WSW.com, and scroll down a little bit, you'll see that, revitalizing your college ham club. And I've got about 24 ideas that I picked up along the way, many of which we've used at the MSU Amateur Radio Club, which can work to get people excited about the hobby and get things organized and get things going. And the best thing about it, Neil, is it really can be used beyond the collegiate level. And you can plug it in basically to any club that's out there. And if you use some of those ideas, you can't help but get people excited about it. One of the things that we do at Michigan State is on game day, we attach an APRS beacon to our mascot. Sparty is the world's most well-known college mascot. And you can follow Sparty wherever he is on game day by going to aprs.fi and looking at the Whiskey 9 Mike Sierra uniform, W8 MSU, Whiskey 8 Mike Sierra uniform, /13, and you'll see that's exactly where Sparty is. So that's just one example of many things that you can do at the collegiate level to get people excited, but also translates real well no matter what department of ham radio you're really working on.
So you heard it here on Ham Talk Live. If you're a Michigan State fan, you want to get a picture with Sparty, all you got to do is pull up APRS.
That's exactly right. And people have done that very thing. I've seen guys that have come up to me and they're waving their HT in their hands, and they're saying, "This is how I found you." And that's really neat. Don't you love hearing that when something like that happens? That's the greatest.
That's great. That is great. I love it. Well, we've got to take a break here soon, but I know we want to take at least a couple of minutes here to talk about another event that you're associated with, you're promoting, and that's a new convention up in Michigan. It's the Great Lakes HamCon coming up soon. So take a couple of minutes and fill us in on what's going on with HamCon.
Well, I'm really excited about Great Lakes HamCon because, in essence, it's the latest startup in amateur radio hamfest. We have this fantastic venue, the Michigan International Speedway. There are no races going on that weekend, so it's all ours. The flea market's going to be on Pit Road. We have a special event station that's going to be in one of the garages. The league is sending out representation. Rick Roderick's going to be our keynote speaker. We got Carol Perry, the legendary Youth Forums person, that's coming. We have a few vendors. There's so much going on surrounding our date that many of the major vendors who will be with us next time around can't make it because they're still unpacking from PacificCon and that kind of stuff. But we're really excited about this as a festival that we think will grow. We have representatives from the Dayton Hamvention coming up. We got people from Orlando Hamcation that are going to be there. And we expect we're going to have right around 1,000 people show up for this first time. And if we do, that'll be a success and we'll break even. So the date is October 7th and 8th, and it's going to be at the Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn. We got hotel discounts in Jackson. We have a ton of great camping. This is a NASCAR event, so you know they do the camping stuff really well. And we got the banquet. We're doing a wolf hong. We're doing the whole 9 yards, and you can learn all about it at glhamcon.org. GL for Great Lakes, hamcon.org.
And will we hear any sounds on the PA of just to kind of make people feel like they're at the speedway? Or
you know what, I had not thought about that, Neil. I think that's a great idea. We need to have some of that. Yeah, normally on the race day, I don't know if you've been to a NASCAR event, but you can't hear a darn thing. It's really loud.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the venue itself is going to be so much fun because we'll have the whole infield. One of the things the Dayton guys are very interested on is figuring out how to make it so the flea market's not so muddy at Xenia. And at MIS, it's all asphalt. So we guarantee that even if it were to rain, you're going to have a perfect place for your flea market. But it's going to be great fun. We're looking forward to it.
Now I gotta throw this out there. Okay, if it's NASCAR, you know what's going to come up. After they go down the straightaway, it's another left turn, and what comes up next? Oh, it's another left turn. So does that mean
right.
that if you drive those little scooters around at the Hamfest, you can only turn left?
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Well, we won't restrict people from turning left, but we'll make it very easy for you to do it if you want to.
Oh, it's another left turn. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we'll take your calls, and we may talk a little more about Michigan State and the Collegiate Initiative and all that kind of thing. But we'll give you a chance to call in, and that phone number is 812-NET-HAM1, 812-638-4261. And we'll be back after we pay a bill or two and take your calls after this from the Ham Station right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by the Ham Station. For over 37 years, the Ham Station has sold new and used radios, antennas, accessories, and equipment to hams everywhere. Give Dan or Jeff a call at 800-729-4373 or order online at hamstation.com. Ham Station carries all the major brands like ICOM, Yaesu, and Kenwood, and they have a wide selection of radio scanners, MFJ accessories, Heil sound products, amplifiers by Mirage and Ameritron, Cushcraft antennas, and more. Easy online ordering is at hamstation.com or call 1-800-729-4373 to place an order and talk it over with the experts. The Ham Station, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
Ham Talk Live with Neil Rapp.
Join the conversation. Call us on voice with Skype at Ham Talk Live or give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Now, here's more Ham Talk Live.
All right, well, it's still buy your husband a ham radio month, according to Twitter. So give Ham Station a call at 800-729-4373 or go to hamstation.com and leave that webpage up and intentionally open. Maybe they'll buy you a new radio. You never know. Be sure to listen to Ham Talk Live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time at hamtalklive.com. Check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Ham Talk Live. You'll find us. And it's time for your calls. So if you have a question for Scott about public relations, about the Great Lakes HamCon or the college initiative, any of those things, give us a call right now. And our number is 812-638-4261. That spells out 812-NET-HAM1. Or you can just Skype us. Just look for Ham Talk Live on Skype. You can find us there. Or you can tweet us if you're too mic shy. You can give us a tweet, and that's at Ham Talk Live as well. So give us a call. 812-NET-HAM1 is the number. Now, let's follow up a little bit more on this HamCon thing, because we cut that a little short. You said my friend Carol's coming to do some youth stuff, and you've got some of the people coming from Dayton and Orlando and that kind of thing. And so what are some of the other events that are going on there at HamCon, and fill us in a little bit more on that.
Well, we have a full slate of forums that are going on, and this way it's going to be very similar to what you experience when you go to a place like Dayton or Orlando. We have my good friend Dan Romanchek's going to be there with his technician license in a day class if you want to get licensed for the first time. Whatever the area of amateur radio that you're interested in, we probably got a forum for you, from DX to YL to contesting and propagation, kit building, fox hunting, QRP, you name it. And several of the area clubs are actually using that venue for an opportunity for a club meeting. So it's going to feel very much like a one of the majors in that space. I mean, the main thing that I'm trying to make sure that people realize is that this is a startup. We have some angel investors that are helping us get off the ground, and this is going to be the first year. We'll have our bumps and stuff like that. And but the great thing about it is that both the Great Lakes Amateur Radio Association, which is the group behind this, and MIS are in this for the long haul. And we're going to take what we learn and make it better with every passing year. We are accessible. You were talking about scooters turning left. We do have scooters available there. So if getting around is a challenge for you, we'll make it very easy for you. Great camping opportunities. Some of the best, I think, anywhere. So you can actually, and of course the hotel rates are in our part of Michigan are very, very reasonable. So you can get there for relatively inexpensively, and it won't cost you a whole lot. And there will be a lot to do while you're there.
All right. Sounds like a great time. Like you said, first year is always figuring out stuff, but it sounds like I said, you've got a commitment for the long haul, and it's just going to get better. So sounds like a great time. So make sure you check that out. And that website again is
glhamcon.org. GL for Great Lakes, and then hamcon.org, and everything that you could ever want to know about it is listed over there in great detail. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, by the way, under GL HamCon for late updates, as they say in the radio business.
All right, very good. So check that out, and if you can make it up there, why, sounds like a great time. 812-638-4261 is the telephone number. 812-NET-HAM1 is how you spell that out, or Skype us or tweet us. And we'd love to hear from you right now and ask questions here with Scott Westerman, W9WSW, who's joining us. Talking a little public relations tonight, and a little bit about the Michigan State Amateur Radio Club and the Great Lakes HamCon. So give us a call, 812-638-4261. Okay, so while we're waiting here, let's get back to the college initiative a little bit, and I'm kind of in the same kind of thing where we do it at high school level, but we're always trying to recruit new members and trying to get people engaged. So tell us a little bit about what the club there at Michigan State is doing to kind of work with that college initiative and how you're trying to grow the club there at W8SH.
Well, MSUARC.com is our website for MSU Amateur Radio, and where we have a very robust presence on Facebook and Twitter, and that's kind of a common theme that I'll be repeating, is that you really need to have an outpost wherever you think your membership is. And the kind of stuff that we've been doing over the last few years at the MSU Amateur Radio Club that's been fun and is really easily translatable. Beyond chasing Sparty around, we had a couple of years ago, we did a special event station for every home game with customized QSL cards for each of those games. And you could collect the whole set by making a contact for every one of those games. And if you got them all, we would send you a poster into which you could place those cards. They had specific spaces, and that was a lot of fun. That generated a lot of interest.
Oh, love that idea.
The other thing is to think about how you make your shack state of the art. That's really, really important. Dave Sumner, K1ZZ, went to Michigan State, and he's not even from the state of Michigan, but he came to MSU because back when he was around, was hamming, the coolest thing out there was the Collins S-Line, and we had one. We had that set up at the station. So now what our philanthropic members are doing is they're helping us get the state-of-the-art stuff. So we've got a flex in the shack, and we also have something really fun, which is we've got a Kenwood 480 that is connected to a remote rig setup. So if you're a student, you can take a control head and a remote rig with you anywhere on campus and use the campus Wi-Fi and actually connect to the base unit, which is located in the shack, and you can operate. So imagine if you want to take that control head back to your dorm room and do some hamming from back there, or it's very easy for us, for example, to set up a special event station anywhere on campus without having to worry about moving the antennas and all that stuff. So those kind of things are important. I think the most important thing, Neil, is programming, right? So you really need to make sure that your club meetings have topics of interest that are going to make people want to come and check it out. And that requires some thought. It can't just be the latest build night or something like that. You really need to think about how you can get some rock stars. So think about getting Tamitha Scove to talk about propagation on Skype with you for one night. We have a guy who is heavily into DMR that brought 13 different digital radios to show us and took us right back to the very beginning of how digital communication started to happen, how it happens commercially and in the ham world. And that was fascinating. That drew a bunch of people. And use your resources. For example, we have an AM and FM and a TV station on campus, and later this month we're doing a behind-the-scenes tour of the facilities there because they are absolutely state-of-the-art. So those kind of things from a programming perspective are really, really important. Another thing to think about is how you can interconnect with other college ham clubs, and that's where the N1YR weekly All-Star Echo Link net, the Collegiate Ham Radio Net, which happens Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, is really a great place to make new friends because there are other folks in the collegiate world that have the same interests, and you're able to broaden your reach even if you don't necessarily have a critical mass of members there. So those are a few of the things to think about. From a social media perspective, the real key is to make sure that your social media accounts have personality. One of the things that I love about the way you do what you do, Neil, is your personality exudes everywhere that you are on the web. We know all about you and all about the things that makes you such a great ham and such a great guy, right? And that's why people tune into your show, because they tune in for the personality and the conversation. So as you're thinking about your social media presence, give some personality to that and have an interactive relationship. So if you're going to do, for example, Twitter, monitor that Twitter feed. And when somebody retweets you or makes a comment, talk back to them. Engage them in conversation. The minute I saw that you had posted about my joining you on the show, I made sure that all of our social media channels at Michigan State and everybody that I knew about that. And that the great thing about that is they speak in their own voice to their own audience. So it's a very important thing to think about as you're communicating, is each medium has its own cultural language, right? So what you say on Facebook is different than what you say on Twitter.
Absolutely, it is.
But your personality needs to shine through there. They need to know who you are and why it's important that they want to make you their friend.
And mascots help too. So you've got Sparty. I've got Hammy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I've got Hammy. You know, maybe we need to put APRS on Hammy.
Well, it's real easy to do. I mean, basically, what you do is you find one of the HTs that has APRS built in. Program your SSID for whatever you want and stick it on the guy's belt. And wherever they go, you'll be able to find them. We actually have an iGate on campus. So it's very easy for even very low power signals to get out into the, the digital atmosphere over in the cloud, as they say. And that works. That's fun stuff. Use APRS, for example, to help people find you if you're doing a special event station somewhere on campus. Do that as well. The other thing to do is to think about other platforms. One of the things we do at Michigan State is that we have a Google map where you can self-pin your tailgate location. So if you want Sparty and his Appers radio to come your way, you can just put your pin down and say, this is where I'm going to be when I'm going to be there. Same things work with APRS for amateur radio guys.
Very good. And I love the remote through the Wi-Fi. When I was in school at the University of Southern Indiana, W9WSW, our station was literally in a mop closet. That's where the radios were, and a lot of the radios, really got a lot of damage from the humidity, and all the contacts were always, messed up and everything. But we were literally stuck in a mop closet. It was the only place we could get with, access to the tower and everything. And it was an ordeal to get there. And if you had, the remote, and you can be back in your dorm room or, back in your apartment or whatever, and just hop on there, the possibilities are endless.
Well, and when you think about the creativity of the current crop of college kids, there's a lot of ways to do it. You don't have to buy a remote rig and a 480. If you have Ham Radio Deluxe running any of your rigs, and you want to set up, a remote control application like TeamViewer or something like that to be able to give people access to it, it's possible to set up a user list based upon your membership where you can do what, in essence, is going on right now at remotehamradio.com, right? A lot of us got hooked on remote ham radio during NPOTA.
Right.
And that costs money. But it doesn't have to cost money at your school. If you want to set up a Ham Radio Deluxe with a remote control, you can do it that way too.
Yeah. Now we've got an ICOM 7300, and we just bought the software for it, and so we can remote from my classroom and remote around. But I haven't been able to get the IT guys to let us through the firewall yet. So we're going to have to.
That's a challenge, isn't it?
Yes, that's the big challenge. Yeah, so that's the challenge.
Now, do you have do you have a HamNet mesh thing going on where you live?
No, we don't have any mesh that I know of anyway. But with the makerspace,
that's another interesting
here,
thing.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, one of the things that our Double E guys are doing is they're actually building a HamNet mesh overlay as kind of a backup to the university's Wi-Fi, and it's totally unique and separate. It's all solar powered, so it's always available. And what we hope to be able to do is actually interconnect it. We have a backbone that goes around the state, a microwave backbone that one of our guys got some Homeland Security money for, and that's all HamNet stuff. So depending upon the thing that I love about this hobby is it's only limited by your imagination and your energy. Any idea that you have, you can make real with ham
I'm
radio.
going to have to cut you off there, Scott, but well said. And so 7-3s to everybody and 7-5. May the good DX be yours. Next week, we're talking about handy hams. Lucinda Moody, AB8WF will be here. So be sure to tune in then. So 7-3 for now.